American. Okay, what is it? Upside down. I'll have to stand on my head to do today's lesson. Anything is possible when you can fly. What I was going to say is we're going to hear a lot more Native American music today. If you come back, we'll hear a little bit more during the lesson. During the service. So I hope you enjoy that. Thank you. Thank you. There's lots of different kinds of music we can play on these instruments. It was always a dream of mine, living in New Mexico for so many years, to play the Native American flute. And I always had this vision of someday being able to do it. I'm not really that musically inclined. But I thought, well, maybe someday I can do it. And lo and behold, one day, a guy named Armand de la Volpe, some of you know him, came into my life in New Mexico and handed me a flute and said, I'm going to teach you to play. And my dream came true. See, when we hold on to our dreams, anything can happen. How many of you have dreams and goals? Yeah? Oh, don't raise your hands like this. Raise your hands. How many of you have dreams and goals? Good, wonderful. I want you to think about something. When you were a kid, a little kid, maybe a big kid, you had dreams and goals, didn't you? You believed that anything was possible. Anything at all. But what happened? What happens to us as children when we begin to grow and we begin to lose those dreams we had when we were little, those fantasies they're called? What are they? They say that there are 6 great truths that every child is born with that we should never lose. And it is as we lose those that we lose our abilities. The first is all animals can talk. How many of you believe that? How many of you believed it when you were children? All animals can talk. The second one is that your favorite blanket is woven from a fabric so mighty and so powerful that once it's pulled over your head, it renders you invincible and even invisible. How many of you remember that as a child? Or maybe had your own children do that? Okay, this is silly. I'm done with that. Fortunately, I was smart this time and had paper to back everything up. Okay. How many of you remember knowing as a child that you could jump from any height with an umbrella and be completely safe? Remember doing that? Or was I the only one insane enough to do that? Maybe you knew that a finger and a thumb really could shoot bullets. Of course, we are enemy people, so we shoot love bullets. Hearts. I remember as a kid knowing for a fact that monsters do exist. They can be seen, done battle with, or made friends with. How many of you remember that one? But the greatest, the most special, and most awesome and regrettable loss of all, I have been told, is when we forget that we can fly. When I was a little kid, like Sam's age and younger, I walked to school and I flew home every day. I'll let you in on a little secret. My wife knows this. When we're driving down the highway sometimes, and she's driving and I'm on the passenger side, I stick my arm out and fly. I still do it. They say that is the greatest loss of all, though, when we forget that we knew how to fly. Now, sure, probably, I'm holding out, but probably we can't physically fly in just this human body, not successfully anyway. Actually, the flying part is pretty easy. It's the landing that's always a little rough. But what about our spirit flying? What does it mean to fly in truth? Our spirit can rise up. Our spirit can fly. And when I say fly, I mean rise, as we did in that meditation, to a higher level of thought, a higher understanding, a higher realm of thinking. That area where we know that anything is possible. anything at all, where we can accomplish our dreams. Just a few weeks ago, last year, many of us wrote down our goals and dreams for the coming year. Not New Year's revolutions. Yeah, we can use a few of those too. Not New Year's resolutions, but our dreams and our goals for the coming year. How many of you do that? If you don't, it's not too late. It's still early in the year. Go home from today, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it later, but go home from today and write down at least one goal for the year. And it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm 61 years old, and I still have a list of goals and dreams that I am going to accomplish. Or at least work real hard on accomplishing them. Some of them I may take several lifetimes. But I, regardless of age, have not stopped dreaming. I hope you haven't either. So we write down our dreams, and we write down our goals. And we ask ourselves, what are my dreams? What are my goals? Do I still have any that I have carried for my entire lifetime? Let me tell you something, whether you are consciously aware of it or not, you came into this life with things to do. That's a fact. Otherwise, what would be the point of life? I happen to believe our soul has a curriculum that we bring with us. And we work on it, sometimes through more than one lifetime, I think. Are they big dreams? Do you have big dreams? Do you have dreams that seem to be impossible? That everybody around you tells you, oh, you're too old, you don't have enough education, you don't have enough money, you did this when you were young, you can't, it wiped out your possibilities for achieving your dreams. Karma. Well, let me tell you, it's time your karma ran over that dogma. But the challenge we have, the thing that keeps us from doing this, is we listen to those messages that are all around us. We listen to those stories and those people that tell us why we can't do what we do. And they come from everywhere. They come from messages we received in childhood, from parents maybe, or from teachers, from relatives. They come from our leaders. You can't do this. Only I can do this. Or this is impossible. It's time we stop listening to that. T.S. Eliot wrote this: only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far they can go. Are you willing to risk going too far? I remember when I moved from New Jersey to New Mexico, many, many years ago. People said, why are you leaving the country? You can't survive down there. You don't speak Spanish. First of all, in case you don't know, New Mexico is part of the United States and we do speak English. I did pick up enough Spanish to order food and get myself in trouble. But then when I said I'm moving to Missouri, they said, why are you moving to Missouri? Your family's here, your job is here, everybody you know is here, everything is that you love is here. And I could have said, yeah, you're right. I could have. But my soul said, no, go. Take that next step in the adventure of life. And that was only a few years ago. Some people said, well, you're too old to start a new career in a new place. We'll talk about that another day. But what happens then? What happens that keeps us from accomplishing these dreams? What happens to keep us from taking that first step? Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that happens to everybody is the fear of the in-between time. The time between that first step and the accomplishment of the dream. It's dark. We can't see it. We look to the future, and we remember the words of Yoda, clouded in the future, it's impossible to see. And we listen to that, and we stop taking the steps. There's a story that I heard one time about a father whose son came home from school one day, and he said, so tell me, here you are, you're starting school and everything, how do you like going to school? And the kid says, well, Daddy, I like going to school, that's okay. And I like coming home from school, but in that in-between time, I don't like that so much. That's kind of like the way it is for us sometimes. in our journey. It's the in-between time, what I call the oven time. You know, you make a batch of cookies, you mix the dough, you put in all the seasoning, and maybe you taste a little bit of that chocolate chip cookie dough. And then you have to put it in the oven and wait, and wait, and wait. Hoping that it won't burn, hoping that you did everything right before you know if it works. What would it take? What would it take to bridge that in-between time? What would it take to have the courage and the ingenuity and the enthusiasm to go through the oven time? Because there will always be that. There will always be that in-between time. There are those times when you step out on a journey and you don't have no idea what's ahead. We learned in the Prosperity 3 class that just ended that we don't have to know what's in between. Spirit knows. We are one with Spirit. We are Spirit. We are Spirit expressing. All we have to know is what the next step is. And whenever we get to a place where we may not have seen what that next step is, if we do what we did during the meditation and stop and become still, the next step is always revealed. But we have to listen. That's our task. We have to listen. But we make a mistake too often, especially in Christianity. We are told over and over again, if you want your dreams to come true, you have to meet certain conditions. You know what they are. We hear them all the time. But they are not any conditions that our teachers, like Jesus and Buddha, and all the other great teachers the world has ever seen, brought to us. The big mistake is we think we have to somehow become worthy. We have to appease a God that has human emotions and anger management issues. That's not true. Because what happens when we do that is we are putting God out there. I remember being told all the time, well, pray to God that you will be given what you need to achieve this dream. And you know what I've come to realize? That if I have the dream, I already have what is needed to achieve it. Because we know that God is in us. God is through us. We are in God. It's all one thing. We are not separate. We don't have to go to a God somewhere. We don't have to earn the right to have the power and the abilities to accomplish our dreams. What we have to do is take action on those dreams. We have the right to do it because we have the dream. That gives you permission right then and there. If you have the dream, you have the right to accomplish it. It is yours. So that big mistake is believing in a God that is out there, believing in a God that puts conditions on things. Believing in a God that is not already within us and already within the dream. Where do you think the dream came from? It's there, waiting to be expressed. So what gives us courage? Well, it is God. It is knowing that we are one with everything we need to accomplish that dream already. And so when we say turn to God, we're saying turn within. Turn within to that divine presence that we call Christ that is within you. Because there is where you make the connection that gives you the answers you need to achieve your dreams. God wants us to achieve our dreams, we've been told, and to have the courage to go after these dreams. And as I said, we're told, go to God and talk to God and ask for God's help. No, don't do that. Well, I bet you never thought you'd hear a minister say that, huh? Don't go to God and ask God for help. You're all looking at me like, what the heck is he talking about? Affirm. Make firm in your consciousness that God is expressing through this dream through you, as you. That you have the stamina already, that you have the faith already, that you have the courage already, and that you have everything you need to know in that moment to take the next step on your dream. Everything. So the key to being successful is to have 20/20 vision. Isn't that neat how I did that? Gary actually inspired that idea, that 20/20 vision. This year, we are going to have 2020 vision as a congregation, as a people. And I hope it ripples out from here and catches fire. Believe in yourself. Believe in that God created you and that you are a co-creator with that creative force. I'm going to tell you another story about just how powerful people can be and how we can overcome it. This is a true story about a real person. His name is Monty Roberts. Some of you may know him as a guy called the Horse Whisperer. Very famous, very successful. But he wasn't always. He was the son of an itinerant horse trader. As a child, they moved from farm to farm, ranch to ranch, stable to stable, trading horses. He never had an opportunity to go to school more than a few months at any given time, and he had huge gaps in his formal education. And one day he was at school, about 3rd grade, and the teacher gave them an assignment. Write an essay about your dream, what it is you want to do in your life. He spent 2 weeks on that essay, wrote 7 pages describing this beautiful ranch and this 2,000 square foot house and these stables and all of these horses, and how he was going to create something where he could bring children from other cities and children like him who didn't have the opportunities that other kids did, and bring them to this ranch and teach them how to work with horses and how to talk with horses. He already had that love. And he turned it in at the end of 2 weeks, and his teacher handed it back to him the next day with a big red F on it and a note, "See me after class." Can you imagine what this little kid felt? Here was his hopes, his dreams, and his teacher gave him an F. And he took that paper to his teacher after class and said, why did I get an F? And she said, "Monty, you're unrealistic. You don't have any education, really. You're poor. You don't have the resources. You will never have the resources to do this. Everything in life is against you making this come true. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to rewrite this paper with more realistic goals." Heartbroken, he took the paper home. And he sat down, showed it to his dad, and talked to his dad. And his dad said, "Son," he says, "I don't know. I can't tell you what to do on this. But I can tell you this." His father was wise beyond years. He says, "I can tell you this. It's your decision to make. Listen to your heart." Next day, his teacher asked him if he had rewritten the paper. He said, "I'm working on it." The end of the week, he turned the paper back in with a note written under it, the very same paper. Turned it back in with a note written under her note. "You can keep your F, I'll keep my dream." Today, that letter hangs above his fireplace in his 8,000 square foot home on his 2,000-acre ranch, where he brings children from cities and all over to spend the summer learning how to work with horses, building their self-confidence, learning how to make their dreams come true. But it's amazing what happens when you do that, because something else happened. A few years back, a school group came out from the city on a field trip to his ranch, and he's showing them around and everything, and they see the letter above his fireplace. And one of the teachers there, an old woman, started crying. And she said, "You don't remember me, but I'm the one who gave you that F." She said, "I was wrong." Today she works for him. He changed her as well. But how many times do our dreams get stolen from teachers who tell us we have to be realistic? Whether they be school teachers, or parents, or relatives, or ministers, in too many places that message is preached. So how powerful then is belief? How powerful is our belief, and how powerful can our belief for others be when they may not have it themselves? Another story. I feel like telling stories today. Another story. There was a guy many years ago, not in a galaxy far away, many years ago, who worked in the customs house. His name was Nathaniel. And one day he got fired. And he was dejected, defeated. He goes home. This was in the, I think, early 1800s. He goes home and he tells his wife, he says, oh, and her name was Sophia, which just blows my mind that he married somebody named Sophia when you think about what it means, how it fits the story. She says to him, don't worry. She said, you have always wanted to write. I've been saving money for years, and we have enough to live on for a couple years while you write your book. Well, he didn't think anything would come of it. They go, well, at least I don't have to worry about finding another job. But he sat down and started writing. A year later, Nathaniel Hawthorne published The Scarlet Letter. How powerful are dreams. Especially if we have people around us who hold those dreams with us. How powerful can they be? It's really, really, really important that we don't quash each other's dreams. However, we do run into obstacles, don't we? Those things that blind us, those things that seem so big and so impossible that we cannot get over them. Henry Ford said this, obstacles are those scary things you see when you take your eyes off your goals. When you take your eyes off your goals. I promise you, as God is my witness, I promise you that if you are working towards a dream or a goal, you will run into obstacles. Thank God. Because those obstacles teach you. They empower you. They may change the direction a little bit to something even better. I say thank you for obstacles when they appear. Yeah, sometimes they're frustrating. Sometimes you don't know how you're going to get past them. But we know it can be done. Don't let the obstacles stop. So you want to know how to put this into practice? This is on. Yes. This is on. It's on. Okay, do you want to know how to put those into practice? Yes. Yes. Okay, so when you go home, get a piece of paper. Get lots of pieces of paper. At the top of that piece of paper, write this. Write, my goal. Write down whatever your goal is. Maybe it's to learn to play a new instrument. Maybe it's to have more loving relationships. Maybe it's to have more money. Maybe it's to, go on a trip. Whatever your goal is, try to find the big ones, the ones you were born with. Maybe it's to sing in front of an audience, or perform in a play, or something that feeds your soul. Maybe it's to become a licensed teacher or minister. Write it down at the top of your paper. Then draw a line down the middle of that paper. And on the left side, you're going to do this. You're going to write down all the reasons why you can't do it. I know that sounds weird, doesn't it? But you will do that. Write down all the reasons why you can't do it. And then tear that side of the paper off and throw it away. On the right side of the paper, you are going to write down how I can do this. And go ahead and write down every thought that comes to mind, no matter how absurd it may be. No matter how ridiculous it may sound. No matter how crazy it may sound. No matter how you think others may think of you if you write that down and do it. Go ahead and write it down. Write it down. Until you have completely covered that half of the paper. And then keep in mind that if God has given you a dream, a goal, an idea, it is yours. It came from your spirit. It is your reason for being here in this life right now. All that stuff you threw away has no power over you. None whatsoever. Unless you give it power. At the very bottom of your paper then, when you are done, write this. If not me, who? If not now, when? I